Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something that's actually happening inside you right now,
Mm-hmm.
even as you listen to this.
It is.
Your autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you're not even aware of it,
Right?
but it's controlling all sorts of vital functions, like
Oh, yeah.
behind the scenes,
In the background.
from your heartbeat
Mm-hmm.
to your digestion.
So for this deep dive, we're using Dr. Rasha Eldeeb's Physiology handout to guide us.
Okay.
She's an associate professor of medical physiology.
Sounds like we're in good hands.
Yeah, so we're in good hands.
Yeah.
Ready to unpack how your body manages to keep everything running smoothly without you even having to think about it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And we'll delve into how the system is actually made up of two branches,
Okay.
the sympathetic and the parasympathetic.
Right.
And they work together
Okay.
in this amazing push and pull
Okay.
to maintain balance.
Like a constant internal tug of war. But with life or death stakes sometimes.
Right.
I mean, what happens when you encounter a sudden threat?
That's when your sympathetic nervous system kicks in.
Right.
It's your fight or flight response. So imagine you're facing a saber-toothed tiger.
Oh, boy.
Your heart starts pounding, your breathing gets faster, your pupils dilate to take in more light,
Uh-huh.
and your digestion slows down.
Wait, why does digestion slow down?
It's all about prioritizing.
Okay.
Your body is redirecting resources,
Okay.
blood flow energy,
Uh-huh.
away from non-essential functions like digestion
Yeah, so?
and towards those that are crucial for immediate survival,
Gotcha.
like your muscles and your brain.
Okay.
It's a brilliant evolutionary adaptation.
So basically your body's saying, no time for a snack, we've got a tiger to deal with.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the parasympathetic system? Is it the chill out and digest system?
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
The parasympathetic system is all about rest and digest. It's the system that's active when you're relaxing,
Okay.
helping you conserve energy, slow your heart rate,
Mm-hmm.
lower your blood pressure, and get your digestion back on track.
So it's kind of like hitting the reset button after
Yeah.
a stressful situation, bringing everything back to a calm and balanced state.
Exactly. And this balance is so crucial
Yeah.
for our overall health and well-being.
Right.
It's fascinating how these two seemingly opposing systems work together
Yeah.
to keep us functioning optimally
Uh-huh.
in all sorts of situations.
And to understand how these systems actually work, we need to talk about neurotransmitters.
Yes, these are the chemical messengers
Okay.
that allow nerves to communicate with
Okay.
each other and with target organs. They're how the brain sends signals to the rest of the body, telling it what to do.
So like a special language
Precisely.
that our nervous system uses.
And in the autonomic nervous system,
Yep.
the two main neurotransmitters are
Yeah.
acetylcholine
Acetylcholine.
and
Norepinephrine.
Think of acetylcholine as the chill-out chemical
Okay.
associated with the parasympathetic system,
Got it.
and norepinephrine as the get-pumped chemical
Okay.
linked to the sympathetic system.
I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Good.
So if acetylcholine is telling the body to relax,
Yes.
and norepinephrine is telling it to get ready for action,
Right.
how do they know which organs to target?
That's where receptors come in.
Yep.
Each neurotransmitter has specific receptors it binds to,
Uh-huh.
kind of like a lock and key.
Okay.
And depending on which receptor is activated,
Yeah.
it triggers a different response in the target cell.
Okay, so if I understand correctly,
Mm-hmm.
the neurotransmitter is the messenger carrying the signal,
Yes.
and the receptor is the receiver
Yeah.
that picks up the message
Right.
and triggers a specific action.
Exactly. It's like a complex communication network
Wow.
with specialized pathways for different signals.
Mm.
And what's remarkable is that we can actually use drugs to manipulate these pathways.
Wait, you're telling me we can use drugs to influence our autonomic nervous system?
Yes.
That's incredible. How does that work?
We have drugs that can mimic the effects of certain neurotransmitters,
Okay.
amplifying their signals, or we have drugs that can block those signals,
Ah.
essentially silencing them. So this allows us to treat a wide range of conditions
Yep.
by either enhancing or inhibiting specific aspects of the autonomic nervous system.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
It's like we have a secret control panel
Yeah,
for our internal systems, and we're just beginning to understand how to use it.
absolutely. And the more we understand about these systems, the better equipped we are
Yeah.
to manage our health and well-being.
Okay, so we've covered the basics
Yes.
of the autonomic nervous system.
Uh-huh.
It's two branches
Right. Yeah.
and the key neurotransmitters involved.
Correct.
What's next on our deep dive itinerary?
Let's zoom in on those receptors we talked about.
Okay.
specifically the adrenergic
All
receptors
right.
that respond to norepinephrine.
Uh-huh.
We'll uncover how those tiny proteins play a huge role in those classic fight or flight responses.
Perfect. Lead the way. I'm ready to dive deeper.
Okay.
All right, so we're about to explore these adrenergic receptors, the ones that respond to norepinephrine, the get pumped chemical.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is where things get really complex.
Well, there are a few different types, each with its own personality, you could say.
Okay.
We have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, and even beta 3 receptors.
Uh-huh.
And they're not just randomly scattered throughout the body, they're
Right.
strategically positioned
Okay.
to fine-tune our responses
Okay.
to different situations.
So it's not just a blanket fight or flight response. It's
Right.
more nuanced than that.
Exactly. Let's start with alpha 1 receptors.
All right.
These are mostly found on the smooth muscle cells that line your blood vessels.
Ah.
When norepinephrine binds to them, it causes those blood vessels to constrict, narrowing the pathway for blood flow.
Okay, I'm picturing a garden hose, and someone's pinching it to make the water shoot out further. Is that kind of what's happening here?
That's a great analogy.
Really?
It's all about directing blood flow to where it's needed most during a stressful situation.
Okay.
So less blood to your skin,
Okay.
that's why you might turn pale,
Uh-huh.
and more blood to your core muscles, preparing you to fight or flee.
Makes sense. Now, what about those beta-1 receptors the table mentions they hang out in the heart, right?
Right. And when norepinephrine binds to these receptors,
Yeah.
it's like stepping on the gas pedal for your heart.
Ooh.
It increases your heart rate and the force of each beat, making sure your muscles are getting a surge of oxygen-rich blood.
So that explains the pounding heart you feel when you're nervous or excited. It's your beta-1 receptors getting the message that it's time to step things up. What I find fascinating is that the beta-2 receptors seem to have a different job altogether.
Yes, beta 2 receptors are more about relaxation,
Okay.
particularly in the lungs and digestive system.
Ah.
When they're activated, they actually cause the smooth muscles to relax.
So in the lungs, this would mean opening up the airways, like taking a deep breath to calm down.
Exactly. By relaxing those muscles around your airways, your body ensures you're getting plenty of oxygen,
Okay.
which is crucial for dealing with stress or exertion.
Okay.
And in the digestive tract,
Yeah.
beta 2 activation slows things down again because digestion isn't a priority when you're in fight or flight mode.
It's amazing how these different receptors create this intricate web of responses. Now, I have to ask, if we know so much about how these receptors work, can we use that knowledge to our advantage, like medically speaking?
You're thinking about drugs that can target these receptors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is absolutely yes.
Wow.
It's a cornerstone of modern pharmacology.
Really?
We can develop drugs that either mimic the effects of these neurotransmitters,
Okay.
enhancing their signals, or block those signals to dampen the response.
So it's like having a toolkit to fine-tune our autonomic nervous system. What are some examples of how we're using these drugs?
Well, let's take neostigmine.
Neostigmine.
It's a drug that enhances the action of acetylcholine,
Okay.
the chill-out chemical.
Right.
It's used to treat myasthenia gravis,
Okay.
a condition where communication between nerves and muscles is impaired.
So it's helping to boost that signal from the nerve to the muscle, allowing them to work together more effectively.
That's a great way to put it. Neostigmine is also used to treat urinary retention after surgery.
Okay.
By increasing acetylcholine activity, it helps the bladder muscles contract and expel urine.
Wow, so many applications. What about drugs that block acetylcholine's effects? I remember the handout mentioned atropine.
Atropine is a classic example. It blocks the action of acetylcholine at a specific type of receptor
Okay,
called muscarinic receptors.
gotcha.
It's used to dilate pupils for eye exams, reduce secretions before surgery, and even as an antidote for certain types of poisoning.
It's fascinating how one drug can have so many diverse uses. But I'm also curious about this thing called organophosphate poisoning that was mentioned in the handout.
Organophosphates are chemicals found in insecticides
Okay.
and some nerve gases.
Uh-huh.
They're dangerous because they disrupt the breakdown of acetylcholine,
Right.
essentially causing a massive overload
Okay.
of this neurotransmitter in the body.
So it's like hitting the rest and digest button on overdrive, but in a very bad way.
Unfortunately, yes, the symptoms can be severe,
Oh, gosh.
ranging from increased secretions and muscle twitching to convulsions and even respiratory failure.
That sounds terrifying. Are there any ways to counteract the effects?
Thankfully, yes, atropine, the acetylcholine blocker we just discussed,
Uh-huh.
can be used as an antidote for organophosphate poisoning.
Oh, okay.
It helps to restore balance by counteracting the excess acetylcholine.
That's reassuring to know now.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering about drugs that target the sympathetic nervous system, specifically those adrenergic receptors we talked about earlier.
Well, we have a whole class of drugs called sympathomimetics
Sympathomimetics.
that mimic the effects of norepinephrine,
Okay.
activating those alpha and beta receptors.
Uh-huh.
These can be used to treat conditions like asthma,
Okay.
where they help open up the airways by activating those beta-2 receptors in the lungs.
And I assume there are also drugs that can block those adrenergic receptors, kind of like putting the brakes on the fight or flight response.
You're exactly right. We call those sympatholytics. They can be used to treat high blood pressure, for example,
Okay.
by blocking alpha-1 receptors, which
Okay.
we know constrict blood vessels.
It's incredible how we can use our knowledge of these intricate pathways to develop such targeted treatments.
Yeah.
It's like having a whole pharmacological toolkit at our disposal.
And this is just scratching the surface.
Really?
The field of autonomic pharmacology is vast
Wow.
and constantly evolving, with new discoveries and applications emerging all the time.
I'm starting to understand why you find this all so exciting.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we can use our knowledge of these intricate systems to develop targeted treatments for so many different conditions.
Exactly. And what's even more remarkable is that we're still learning so much
Whoa, wow.
about the autonomic nervous system and its role in health and disease.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
It's time to recap the key takeaways and maybe leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to ponder.
Sounds good to me. Let's shift gears to our outro and see what insights we can offer our fellow knowledge seekers.
Okay, so we've been on quite a journey
Rev?
through the intricate world of the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that all this is happening inside us right now,
I know, right?
without us even having to think about it.
It is incredible.
We started by talking about how the sympathetic system is that fight or flight response kicking in when we encounter a threat
Right.
and prioritizing those survival functions.
Yes.
Then we explored the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest mode that helps us calm down, conserve energy, and get back to a state of equilibrium.
Right.
And we dove into how these systems communicate using those chemical messengers called neurotransmitters,
Mm-hmm.
acetylcholine for the parasympathetic system,
Yeah.
and norepinephrine for the sympathetic system.
Yes.
They bind to those specialized receptors on target cells,
Right.
kind of like a lock and key,
Yeah.
triggering specific actions.
Mm-hmm.
We even explored how different types of receptors create this nuanced web of responses,
Mm-hmm.
like those alpha-1 receptors that constrict blood vessels,
Yes.
sending more blood to your core muscles when you need them most,
Right.
or those beta-2 receptors that open up your airways,
Yeah.
helping you take those deep calming breaths.
Exactly.
And we couldn't leave out the world of pharmacology.
Of course not.
It's incredible how we can use drugs to mimic or block these neurotransmitters,
Yeah.
giving us the ability to fine-tune these systems and treat a wide range of conditions.
Mm-hmm. It's like having a secret control panel for our internal systems.
Yeah, but here's something I've been pondering.
What's
We've
that?
talked a lot about how these systems help us deal with immediate threats.
Uh-huh.
But what about the long-term effects of stress
Oh,
on the autonomic nervous system?
that's a really important question.
Yeah.
We know that chronic stress keeps the sympathetic nervous system activated for prolonged periods.
Okay.
And that can have some serious consequences for our health.
So it's like our bodies are constantly in fight or flight mode,
Mm-hmm.
even when there's no real danger present.
Exactly. And that can lead to problems
Stress.
like high blood pressure, heart disease, digestive issues, sleep disturbances,
Wow.
and even mental health problems like anxiety and depression.
Really?
It disrupts that delicate balance we talked about.
That's a bit concerning. So what can we do about it?
Like
Is there a way to reset our autonomic nervous system
Mm-hmm.
and get it back in harmony?
The good news is that there are things we can do
Okay.
to help regulate our autonomic nervous system. Practices like mindfulness meditation yoga and deep breathing exercises
Uh-huh.
have been shown to activate the parasympathetic nervous system,
No.
promoting relaxation and counteracting the effects of stress.
So those aren't just trendy wellness fads. They actually have a real physiological impact on our bodies.
Absolutely. They give us tools to consciously influence our autonomic nervous system and bring it back into balance.
That's empowering to know we're not just at the mercy of our stress response.
Yeah, right.
We have the power to modulate it.
Exactly. And as we continue to learn more about the intricate workings of the autonomic nervous system,
Yeah.
we'll undoubtedly discover even more ways
Huh.
to optimize its function and promote well-being.
Well, on that note of empowered self-care, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Okay.
I hope you found this exploration as fascinating as I did.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And until next time, keep those neurons firing. And remember to take some time to activate that parasympathetic system